back to Chicago Now. It is 10:52. So now we are taking a journey of remembrance. Father and son retrace Holocaust history. We are joined by Michael and Andrew Lowenthal, and we're reflecting on remembrance, resilience, and the lessons history still teaches us today. So our next guests bring a powerful story across generations. Michael Lowenthal, which Michael is right here next to me. He was liberated as a child from Bergen-Belsen concentration camp 80 years ago, and this past spring he returned to that site with his son Andrew, retracing painful memories, but also honoring survival, family, and the importance of keeping memory alive. Thank you for joining us this morning, gentlemen. So let's start at the beginning. So you're both from Chicago, first of all.
Yes.
And so this was a big trip. Was this something that you've wanted to do for years, or was this something spur of the moment?
Well, Bergen-Belsen has a commemoration every 5 years.
Okay.
So this was my third trip to the camp.
All right.
And but my reactions are pretty much the same each time.
Okay. Can we dive into that?
How many of you are there, survivors in 2025, that attend those every few years, those commemorations?
Well, I think when I was there this time, there were like 120 survivors from Bergen-Belsen.
And to clarify, Michael was you said 7.5 years old when you were liberated from that camp?
In 1943, 44, yeah.
Wow. And Andy, how many times, if ever before, was this your first time going back?
This is my second time. My dad and myself and my dad's wife Amy went in 2016. My dad they opened a museum on what was the former site of the camp, and they interviewed as many of the survivors as they could, and they brought them back in. So I was there with him for that. At the commemoration that we just went to, one of the most interesting things was there was two survivors, the youngest survivor and the oldest survivor.
Oh, wow.
The oldest was 100. And she's a woman in a wheelchair, but she got a lot of attention. She was interviewed quite a bit. And the youngest was born the day before the camp was liberated. So she...
Oh my gosh, so just a newborn kid.
Newborn
and so
baby.
You fall somewhere in the middle then.
Well, yeah, but there were actually quite a few older people I met at the commemoration who were actually born in Bergen-Belsen.
So you said too, wow, that's amazing that they had babies at that location. That's insane. You said you felt the same every time you went back. Can you describe what that feeling was?
Yeah, it reminds me of what happened in the time I was there. And as I said, this was my third visit. And just to clarify, Bergen-Belsen was not a gas chambers kind of a camp. It was more of another. And when the British took over the camp in 1945, they leveled the camp totally. So right now there is no barracks or any of the items that we would normally see in a camp. There is a plastic site where you can see what it looked like theoretically, but there are several large mounds on the property, which if you didn't know, you would think it was just little hills in a garden, but these are really hills with many bodies are buried beneath it, and those mounds represent the people who died in the camp. And
so people did die there, even though it wasn't a gas chamber.
Just as explanation, my parents moved from Germany to Holland in 1937, and because Holland was neutral in the First World War, as Switzerland was in the Second World War. It turned out to be the Nazis took over Holland, and we were moved from Edam, which Edam cheese, where we lived, to Amsterdam, and from Amsterdam we were picked up and sent to Westerbork, which was the Dutch area German holding camp, and from Westerbork people went to Auschwitz. Every Tuesday there was a train that went to Auschwitz. My grandmother, who lived in Switzerland, was able to get us Peruvian passports from a friendly embassy employee. In fact, his granddaughter came to Chicago a number of weeks ago, and because of that, we were sent to the Bergen-Belsen Star Camp. The Star Camp was a facility where there were actually 92 people exchanged for German citizens in other countries. So it wasn't quite as torturous, I would say, as the other facilities. So,
Can you speak on your day-to-day experience there? Do you remember talking to your family members or other people who went through it? Like, what was it like? What did they do? Yeah.
Then now you mean?
No, in the camp.
Oh, and,
Yeah.
I mean, when I went to the camp?
Right.
Yeah. Well, anyway, just wanted to finish story. So we were in the Star Camp, and the Star Camp got very bad toward the end of the war as the Eastern Front collapsed. So then my parents died in December of 1944, and there was a family called Bergen-Belsen who took over the orphans, and they had 6 children of their own, and the Bergen-Belsens and myself and the 6 children all survived by the war.
Along with your grandmother?
No, my grandmother was in Switzerland.
Oh, she was. She
was arranged.
But your parents did not make it.
But yeah, my parents died in December '44.
Andy, I want to bring you into the conversation. Going on this most recent journey over there, what were the emotions like for you visiting that site?
So one of the things that being amongst the survivors and their family members, it was a big commemoration. There's a lot of people, and there's this sense of resiliency across the entire 3 days of programming. That is one of the things I walked away with. And being with my dad and my wife and my brother and his wife and Amy was very meaningful for all of us to be together and just reflect on what my dad had gone through. One of my memories, I was looking back at the pictures from the trip, and I think you're scrolling them through, was us standing in front of the entry gate into Bergen-Belsen, kind of smiling and like a normal family picture. And then you think back 80 years ago, my dad and his family and his parents and other people were in these unbelievable, horrific conditions. And the fact that we were able to be there is kind of a statement that I walked away with.
Yeah, for sure. Is it the same entrance? Because your dad mentioned that a lot of it was just completely raised by the British.
Yeah, I mean, it was all raised, but I think this might be a replica. But there's an entrance into the grounds where the museum is now, and it's
I don't think
period
any of
piece.
the original spaces there anymore.
Michael, as we enter the Jewish high holidays, a season of reflection.
Happy New Year, by the way.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah, what lessons from your journey do you hope resonate most with the community?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, the trip was very meaningful for me because I was able to take 2 of my sons, their wives, and my wife Amy, so give them some idea of what happened. There is maybe a large museum there which does a fairly good job of depicting what went on. Even so, the Germans didn't take a lot of pictures of their own torturing, but the museum has a lot of information. So my reflections are that, whenever I go there, I think of my mother and father, obviously, and all the suffering of the people who were there. I've done a lot of reading and history of it, so I kind of, in my own mind, while I may not have experienced everything, I know everything that went on because I've read several books and have seen the pictures. So I'm very aware of the suffering that went on at the camp.
With regard to the fact that we are kind of living in this wild social media environment where things like conspiracy theories are able to thrive and Holocaust denialism, any messages that either of you would want to share to our audience this morning about how to kind of navigate that difficult territory?
Well, I think going back to my last comment, human spirit shows a lot of resiliency. You've got don't look back, look forward, look for greener pastures. If you're down, it's natural to be affected by all of what we're experiencing right now and the instantaneousness of it, of which obviously is much different than what my father went through back in the 1940s. And take a step back and get away from it and go for a bike ride or go for a run on the lake or go out with friends. And that's so important in today's world because we're just constantly being inundated with so much information, and if you don't find a way to take it into your own hands to control that, I just feel like you can really go down a rabbit hole you do not want to be going down.
Amen.
To both of you, I imagine that you would want this story to be carried. I mean, to your point, if it gets you down, to obviously distract yourself. But if you want to carry this through the generations, do you have an idea of how you're going to do that?
Yeah. So one of the things my dad did, so we have he has 5 grandchildren. My brother has two children. I have 2 children. My other brother has 1. For each of their bar mitzvahs, my dad put together a binder. It's about literally that thick.
Wow.
And it's just the history of our family. It's going back, back into the 1800s of where our family came from, what jobs they had, what businesses they had, how they migrated. And so having that binder, I've been on somewhat of a speaking tour. I try to speak to kids. I think that's most important, and tell my dad's story. He's done that as well. I've also become very involved with the Illinois Holocaust Museum and the U.S. Holocaust Museum, but more with the local Illinois Holocaust Museum, which of course just opened their satellite location down here right on State Street. And it's very important for people to go there and understand what the story was, and to have that as part of their, of their memory, and understand that this is what happened not very long ago. I mean, still less than 100 years ago.
Oh my gosh, it's yesterday.
Yeah.
In history, it's yesterday that this happened. All right, Michael Lowenthal, Andy, thank you so much for being. I will echo that. If you haven't visited there or the main campus up in Skokie, everyone should visit the Holocaust Museum. You don't need to go all the way to Washington, D.C. To experience what happened. Again, in history terms, that was yesterday. We really appreciate both of you coming in and joining us here on Chicago Now. Thank you both so much.
Well, thank you for having us. And there's an important message here. And just want to make a comment that anti-Semitism is becoming more prevalent in America today. But on the other hand, I wrote here, being Jewish in America is a luxury in relation to history. So we are able to fight the anti-Semitism and live a relatively normal life. And I think that's an important message that I'd like to everybody to know.
Be thankful for that. Gentlemen, thank you.